Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, our regular meeting. Today's date is Thursday, April 2nd. We are in City Hall. I'm going to do the roll call of commission members. Vice Chair Commissioner Jekowitz.
Present.
Commissioner Boatwright. Commissioner Blakely. Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Fair. Is Commissioner Ponce in here? Nope, not yet. Commissioner Rubin and Commissioner Tolliver will be absent today. Oh, so will Commissioner Ponce. I am Commissioner Wong. We do have a quorum. I would like to ask anyone wishing to make a statement on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door, or I think outside of the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for public comment on the individual item on the agenda, I'll call the names from the cards and ask you to come forward to the microphone to make your statement. At that time, please state your name and the interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. That meeting took place on March 5th, 2026. They were included in your package. Any discussion? If none, I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes. So moved by Commissioner Boatwright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Jekowitz. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Second item on the agenda is the final landmark recommendation for the Roger Brown Home and Studio located at 1926 North Halsted Street in the 43rd Ward. And Matt, it's on you.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Wong and members of the commission. Last October, you'll remember that you initiated the designation of the Roger Brown Home and Studio. And last week, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which owns the building, they consented to the landmark designation. And for those of you who serve on the Permit Review Committee, this will be familiar because in February, you reviewed and approved a pre-permit submission to convert the home and studio into a residence. Property is located at 1926 North Halsted in the 43rd Ward, and Alderman Knudsen is very supportive of the designation. A closer view shows the building in the Sheffield section of the Lincoln Park neighborhood. In your preliminary recommendation, you found that the building meets 2 criteria for designation, including heritage for its association with Imagism. It's a Chicago movement in art that developed from the 1960s to the 1990s. He also found that it meets criterion 3 for its association with Roger Brown, a nationally significant artist who created most of his work in the building. And the building is a simple store and flat from 1888. Brown bought the building in 1974, and with his partner, architect George Veranda, converted the ground floor into an art studio, and the second floor was converted to a residence for the couple. Befitting the building's original commercial use, the first floor of the front facade features a cast iron storefront with 2 large windows. An entrance at the north end of the building leads to the apartment on the second floor, and the second floor of the front elevation includes 3 windows with limestone lintels. Here's the side elevation with a historic painted sign advertising the Daily News, which is an old Chicago newspaper. The date of the sign is not known, but it existed on the building when Roger Brown purchased it in 1974 and is a part of the building that he liked. Roger Brown was born in 1941 in Alabama and raised with a rigorous Christian upbringing. After high school in 1960, he enrolled in a small Christian college in Nashville, Tennessee, to study ministry. He abandoned this path after about a year to instead pursue a career in art. So in 1962, he came to Chicago to study art. He began at the American Academy of Design, where he studied commercial art, and that program influenced his later work. In 1966, he enrolled at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, or SAIC, where he earned a bachelor and master's degrees in fine arts. Influential faculty at SAIC included Rei Yoshida, who taught painting and urged his students to enrich their art with everyday objects and their own personal experience. Another figure at the school who impressed Brown was Whitney Halstead of the art history faculty. In addition to teaching, Halstead worked at the Field Museum's anthropology department, which cultivated his interest in non-Western art, which he passed down to Roger Brown. A third important figure while Brown was studying was self-taught artists, particularly the Chicagoan Joseph Yoakum, who drew elaborate landscapes. Brown was equally inspired by his fellow students at the school, who would become founders of what would become known as the Imagist School of Painting. Brown and his fellow students, about a dozen of them, started out in the late 1960s with a series of exhibits at the Hyde Park Art Center, a storefront gallery directed by artist Don Baum. In 1968, Brown and his fellow students, Philip Hansen, Christina Ramberg, and Eleanor Dube, put on the False Image Show at the Hyde Park Art Center. With the success of the Hyde Park exhibits, Don Baum convinced Chicago's Museum of Contemporary Art to host an exhibit of the students. This is from the exhibition catalog in 1969. The show traveled to Washington, D.C. and San Francisco, giving the young artist exposure to a national scene. Around this time, the term imagist began to settle on this group of painters, and critics have struggled to really define what the term means because their art is so diverse. One easy definition is to state what imagism was not. A very clear theme that unified these artists was an intentional rejection of the mainstreams of art at the time. That was minimalism and conceptual art like these examples on the slide. They believed that these movements had so refined art as to render it meaningless. The Chicago painters also consciously rejected the New York gallery scene as too elitist. The artists often bristled against the Imagist label, arguing that their work was too varied to constitute a unified movement. But some examples show some of the unifying features. One is their use of bold, flat color. Human and animal figures are common subjects, as seen in this work by Carl Worsum. Craftsmanship is another feature of the Imagist. This is a work by Roger Brown that shows a very high level of craft. I mean, this looks like a spray paint, but this is all hand painted. Another common feature of the group was their willingness to borrow from across a range of influences, including comics and commercial art, like this work from Christina Ramberg. They also like to imbue their work with emotion and memorable imagery, like this one from Ed Paschke. While Brown was a founding member of the Imagists, he would become, on his own, a nationally and internationally significant artist rooted in Chicago. In the 70s, he began exhibiting at the Phyllis Kind Gallery in Streeterville, like this exhibit of his disaster paintings at Left. His work began to be seen in the 70s in national galleries. With the growing success of his career, he was able to buy 1926 North Halsted and renovate the building as his home and studio with his partner, George Veranda. By the 80s, Brown's work began to be selected for major museum exhibitions and not just galleries. And perhaps the most important of these occurred in 1980 when the Sutherland Gallery of Art in London exhibited a survey of Imagist work entitled Who Chicago? The cover of the exhibition catalog at Left features Brown's 1978 painting Land of Lincoln. His work at this time also began to engage with current events of the time. For example, he donated his painting Peach Light to Art Against AIDS, which raised funds for AIDS research in 1987. Chicago's built environment inspired many of Brown's work. Dramatic cloudscapes were another feature. of Brown's work. And just across the street in 1990, Brown completed his most visible piece of public art, a glass mosaic depicting the flight of Daedalus and Icarus. One of Brown's last works was completed in 1997. It's this mosaic entitled Hull House, Cook County, Howard Brown, A Tradition of Helping. It is dedicated to and displayed at the Howard Brown Health Center in Chicago, which serves the LGBTQ plus community. Brown himself was diagnosed with AIDS in the 80s, and by 1993 was suffering from the disease. Despite the effects of the disease and its treatment, he continued to paint. In 1996, he donated his collection at 1926 North Halsted to SAIC, and the school subsequently purchased the building and the collection. Brown died in 1997 at age 56. In his will, he bequeathed to the school over 100 paintings to be sold to fund scholarships. With regards to the building's integrity, you found that it meets this criterion. Brown preserved the exterior of the building, and more recently, the School of the Art Institute has taken excellent care of it. The building originally had a projecting pressed metal cornice. This feature had been removed from the building before Brown bought it in 1974. That's a feature that Brown had intended to restore. From 1997 until 2023, the school operated Brown's home and studio as the Roger Brown Study Collection, which was a combination house museum, archive, and special collection. In 2025, SAIC deaccessioned the collection, and it's been transferred to the John Michael Kohler Art Center in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where it's currently on display. SAIC is selling the building, and I believe they are set to close on the property soon. So to conclude, we recommend no change to the significant features that you identified last year. That would be all exterior elevations, including roof lines, and the historic Daily News sign painted on the north elevation. As part of the significant features, we want to memorialize the Permit Review Committee's approval on February 5th of the conversion of the building to residential use, including replacement of the outer withe of non-historic brick at the parapet, replacement of the exterior stair door at the front elevation, and a new roof deck. So all of those approvals will be part of the significant features. Representative from SAIC is here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Any questions of Matt from the commission? No, having none. A few people have signed up to speak on this item. Start with Kendra Parson from Landmarks, Illinois.
Hello, I'm Kendra Parson. I'm Advocacy Manager for Landmarks, Illinois. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm Kendra Parson. I'm Advocacy Manager for Landmarks, Illinois. We are so thrilled to see this nomination move forward. As you all may remember, Landmarks, Illinois submitted a public suggestion to have the Roger Brown Home and Studio landmarked. And we are so pleased that the School of the Art Institute has granted their consent to do that. And we look forward to seeing it come into a new era under new ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blakemore?
Thank you. Now I'm looking and I'm watching the artwork. That criteria, I thought that you would be landmark for the building itself, not because the artist accomplished it. So that's why it's very important for me to come, and I glanced over that, and you showing me all of the artists and his beautiful, creative, abstract work. But the purpose of this landmark is the building itself. And I can't see that you have met that criteria. The building itself, not the artist and the artist's work. So that's why it's very important for me to come to these meetings. And I glanced over and then I started looking because I'm not new at that. The purpose of landmark is not the status of the artist's work. It's the building itself landmark. And from what I'm reading, it has not met these criteria. And now, you don't have to agree with me, and I don't see the Altmans here. And if the community was involved, when did they have a community meeting? And how many people attended these meetings? You know your job is to not just this name. So that's why, and I signed up for the others too. But where's the alderman? And then sometimes you say, beep, 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 your 3 minutes is up. These games that you all play down here should be up. Thank you, and I'm going to I signed up for all of them. It doesn't be, it's not the orange one about his work, but the building itself. And you didn't give enough information when that building was, and if he gave grant money, if he gave the games that people play. So thank you. I signed up for all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Lynetta Thomas.
I have to agree with Mr. Blakemore on what the parameters and what education was done to the citizens of Chicago about this property. Besides it being the home of someone who came to Chicago in the 60s. If that was the case, there's properties on the south side, the southeast side, that deserve landmark recognition, that were like Jessica Jackson's mother home. She bought it in 62. That should be a landmark. If we're going off of the time that someone came in the building, she's a prominent member of Chicago society. And I don't see a lot of landmark status or notification going for the buildings on the south side of Chicago that are historical. And what are we doing to make sure that every side of the city is being acknowledged and looked at? Because the most historical thing that has happened in my ward was the Pullman building has just been considered a national park. But that building's been there my entire life. Why now? Why aren't we getting the acknowledgement of our historical brick and mortar buildings on the south side? I saw a lot of them get torn down and didn't get this consideration before they were torn down. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Jessica Jackson.
And they're absolutely right. And I've had this conversation in other meetings, and Ms. Boatwright has been there. And I don't understand. I don't understand how you come in here and go hard for all these landmark buildings in the other parts of the city, but you won't do it for the south side. And you won't do it for the west side. That makes zero amount of sense to me. Zero amount. I mean, I'm talking about this much. Zero amount. That you would come in here meeting after meeting after meeting, like right now, you really think you're showing off for these people because you're ignoring me. You think that gains you respect with your peers because you're ignoring a person that's the same skin color as you are. I can guarantee you're not getting their respect. They view you as pathetic because they know to come in here and steal whatever they can to get landmark status for up north, while they heavily gentrify the south side and let those buildings be abandoned, tear them down. And like my building, every building in South Shore that's red brick should be landmark status. The Regal Theater on 79th Street is landmark status. You all have allowed that to sit there Because you got people like Miss Beaumont who are Black and sit in these rooms and don't stand up for our communities at all. Then you invite people like her to a dinner, let her have a seat at the table while she sit there and sell her own people out. It's happening all over the city. They're just taking our property. And you got Governor Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, who is a big part of the real estate theft in this city and in this county. I know for a fact he is trying to steal my property along with the public administrators. Public Administrator Louis G. Apostle is stealing real estate because they're trying to steal mine. And you all are not saying anything. You're letting Pritzker do it because y'all stealing real estate. And when you put people on your board like a Miss Beaumont who sit there and let you do it, it clears you all's conscience somehow to continue to participate in it. That's how come he can look the other way while I'm talking, instead of giving me the courtesy of looking at me. But he gonna take a plan that'll steal on from the south side. If Miss Beaumont bring it to you, I bet you that. And I bet you gonna get that piece of paperwork, your full undivided attention. You're gonna be zoomed in on it. Yeah. So I'm gonna catch you on my next 3 minutes, and I'm gonna keep pounding it because you're trying to steal what's mine.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ward Miller.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ward Miller, the Richard H. Driehaus Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. We are here before you today to encourage and move forward with the final landmark designation of the Roger Brown Home and Studio on North Halsted Street in Chicago, 1926 North Halsted Street to be specific. We feel that this is really an important building by one of Chicago's most important artists. It was designed by Frederick Siebold in 1888. And of course, Roger Brown lived in the building from 1974 to 1995. I would also offer that the significance of the building continued as this was a museum and a working building of Roger Brown's collection until it was sold just last year, which put it sort of in danger, if you will, with the collection sold and the buildings listed for sale. So we are requesting that this move forward as an important building, again, by one of Chicago's most significant most significant artists of the 20th century. And we at Preservation Chicago support this designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I want to apologize. It went out of order this morning or this afternoon and failed to have the owners make their statement. And so if the owners would like to come up and make their statements, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Alexandra Holt with the School of the Art Institute. Just wanted, thank you all. I always forget how short I am. So in any case, Alexandra Holt, representing the School of the Art Institute, and just wanted to confirm what Matt had indicated, that we have consented to the landmark status of the building, and also to indicate that the buyer of the property has also acknowledged and agreed to our consent. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant? If
Thank
not,
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to speak. Therefore, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to City Council for. Oh,
I'm sorry, I signed up for all three on one sheet, so that may have been confusing. I'm Debbie Dodge, a longtime Chicago resident, a graduate of the School of the Art Institute, a big fan of Roger Brown, and I've been on the board. I was on the board of Preservation Chicago for a long time and recently joined the staff. I'm very much in support of landmarking this building, and I'm very glad that the Art Institute has agreed to that. My one regret is that they have sold the building and sold his belongings that were inside, because when I was at the School of the Art Institute, it was a very valuable resource for students to go and explore the mind of Roger Brown, who is one of Chicago's most influential artists. So, and then they sold the collection out of state. So I'm very glad that they did landmark the artist agreeing to landmarking, and the potential new owner agrees. It's just they missed a big opportunity to make a bigger impact in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dodge. Is there anybody else who I've missed? If not, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation of City Council for the Roger Brown Home and Studio. Commissioner Blakely? Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Boatright. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz.
Aye.
Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Rubin, and I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Bryn Mawr Avenue District, primarily from 900 to 1100 blocks of West Bryn Mawr Avenue. This is in the 48th Ward, and I'll call on Eilish Tuffy for the report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eilish Tuffy, Coordinating Planner. Before you, for your consideration, is a preliminary summary of information for the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue Landmark District. Study area consists of 3 city blocks from 900 through 1150 West Bryn Mawr Avenue in the Edgewater community area. The proposed district is located in the 48th Ward, represented by Alderwoman Mena Hoppenworth, who is in attendance today. Here we see a map of the 3-block study area, which extends along Bryn Mawr east of Broadway. The area outlined in red signifies a pre-existing National Register district, which was approved for listing in 1995. You will note that the easternmost end of the corridor does not include the north side of Bryn Mawr. This is because both buildings on the north side of the street in that location were constructed after the historic period of significance and were therefore omitted. Historic Preservation staff's analysis concurs with the National Register nomination's justification for these boundaries, which align with this area's original subdivision. This map, prepared by DPD, reflects the same boundaries, populated with updated survey findings from city staff's recent analysis. The district currently includes 22 buildings, of which we recommend 15 are historic or contributing. Those building footprints are shown here in black. The remaining 7, shown here in red, were determined by staff to be non-contributing, either because they are older buildings that have undergone extensive alteration, such that they no longer convey character-defining features of the district, or because they were constructed outside of the district's period of historic significance, which is identified as the years 1897 through 1929. That reflects existing buildings which remain that were constructed during the district's initial building boom. The characterization of whether a property is contributing or non-contributing to the Bryn Mawr Avenue district represents a preliminary determination by the Historic Preservation Division staff only. The Commission and the City Council reserve the right to make a final determination in accordance with the Landmark Ordinance and the Commission's rules and regulations. Staff find that the district meets 4 criteria for landmark designation, starting with criterion 1 as an example of city heritage. The first European settler in what is now the Edgewater community was Nicholas Krantz, an immigrant from Luxembourg who established a farm and lived in a house at the northeast corner of Clark Street and Ridge Avenue. Krantz's residence was known as 7 Mile House in reference to its distance from the heart of downtown Chicago. Although the house was demolished in the mid-1930s, it was commemorated by a sign in what is now Chicago Park District property adjacent to Senn High School. district traces its origins to John Lewis Cochrane, shown in the upper right corner, who is widely regarded as the founder of Edgewater. Cochrane relocated from the Philadelphia area to Chicago and successfully negotiated with Nicholas Krantz to purchase 380 acres of his farmland to create an exclusive residential subdivision. Shown here outlined in red on an 1885 map of Lakeview Township, which is what the territory was called at that time, the land bounded by Sheridan Road to the east, Foster Avenue to the south, Broadway to the west, and Bryn Mawr to the north would become the first of 3 Edgewater subdivisions developed by Cochrane. Bryn Mawr has been a primarily commercial district from the outset. After subdividing the lots, Cochrane hired architect John Lyman Silsby to create several house designs for the north-south residential streets, Kenmore and Winthrop Avenues. The building on this slide, however, was built by Cochrane as the first commercial building in the Edgewater subdivision. The shingle-style guild hall was commissioned in 1886, also designed by Silsby. It contained Cochrane's real estate office and retail space on the ground floor. The upper floor hall was used in the early years of the neighborhood as a communal gathering place for many of the local congregations and served as the first public schoolroom. This structure was replaced in 1927 by an amusement facility housing a billiard room and bowling alleys, which we'll see shortly. On the left is an early advertisement for Cochrane's new Edgewater subdivision. Features cited to entice new home buyers included basic infrastructure already in place, such as stone sidewalks, a sewer system, and electric streetlights. On the right is a national publication of the Western Electric Company, which wrote about John Cochrane's self-funded electrical power plant. The utility building included flower boxes on the interior side of the windows in an attempt to treat the power station with the same level of elegance as the neighborhood as a whole. As is the case throughout 19th century urban development and beyond, construction of a train station as a commuting option for residents facilitated the growth and popularity of Edgewater as a railroad suburb. Seen here are 2 early versions of what is now the Bryn Mawr Red Line stop. On the left, the original 1886 Edgewater train depot designed by Silsby, and on the right, a later platform extension built above grade for passengers to board the elevated train when it was extended to points further north of the old Wilson Avenue terminus. The name Bryn Mawr was adopted by Cochrane as a reference to an upscale railroad suburb outside of Philadelphia, which he was familiar with from his time back east. This view from Broadway looking east was taken sometime around 1913. It shows that in less than 20 years, the street was already fully functional as a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood commercial district. Building heights at this time were limited to 2 and 3 stories. In fact, it was 1927, with the completion of the Edgewater Presbyterian Community House, identified in this aerial photograph, that initiated the second wave of larger scale construction that would fully build out the district in a period of just 2 years from this photo. Staff find that the district meets criterion 4 as an exemplary collection of architectural styles which retain their quality of design and craftsmanship. The district is a distinctive and remarkably intact group of primarily 2 and 3 story store and flats buildings with 3 large apartment buildings built between 1897 and 1929. The district is distinctive for the fine detailing and craftsmanship seen in such building elements as cornices, windows, and doors. The overall collection of stylistic examples ranging from excellent to modest, illustrating classical revival, Queen Anne, Romanesque revival, Gothic revival, Mediterranean revival, and arts and crafts influences, and for the high quality use of materials including brick, stone, terracotta, and metal. The most prominent of these early commercial building types are the store and flats buildings, retail on the ground floor, and typically either merchant apartments or offices above. The most prominent of these building types are those shown here, which hold the northeast and southeast corners of the Broadway and Bryn Mawr intersection. Standing opposite one another, they form the western gateway into the district. The red brick building In the lower image is the older of the two. Constructed in two phases, the oldest portion of the building is its southern half, which dates to 1897. A northern expansion dates to 1909. Both sections are attributed to architect Joseph Thane, whose design reflects aspects of Queen Anne architecture. The top image is of the 1899 building on the opposite corner. This three-story buff-colored brick building was once the tallest building in Edgewater. Architecturally, the building is the latest Queen Anne style evident in the district. Its buff-colored brick walls are heavily ornamented with classical revival details and a mix of stone and pressed metal. The length of the building is articulated through the use of double-height design features, including two-story pressed metal window bays, alternating with tall stone arches that enframe both second and third-story window openings. Here are the remaining 1- and 2-story commercial buildings in the district dating from the 1890s through 1929. The building on the far right and another with the white window bay bear the names of the owners who funded their construction within their ornamental roof parapets. One of the transitional store and flats buildings that shifted away from Queen Anne and neoclassical ornamentation is this 3-story Tudor Revival building designed by architect Ralph Harris. While it reflects the Tudor Revival style, it's executed in a more stripped down and modern approach for its time. Tudor details of note include the gabled roofline, decorative brick and stucco, which replicate half timbering, window groupings topped by a hood mold, patterned brickwork, and entrance doors topped by a Tudor flattened, pointed arch. The simplified geometry of the building references the arts and crafts movement, which prioritized honesty in materials and handcrafted details over machined ornament. Diagonally across from the previous building is the Manor House. This 3-story building was the first dedicated apartment building constructed on Bryn Mawr Avenue. Edgewater developer John L. Cochran sought to restrict development in his subdivision to single-family houses with only minimal flats above Bryn Mawr commercial buildings. However, the Manor House eventually gained Cochran's approval. The building was designed as an oversized 6-flat with a U-shaped building footprint. Each of the 3 floor levels contained just 2 apartments. The apartments had 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and living spaces that included a front library and an orangery sunroom in the rounded corner tower. Service areas, including the kitchen, were walled off from sight, as were the domestic workers' living quarters. The design is reminiscent of a Norman castle with its multiple tall chimneys, corbelled masonry brackets, and round towers of various heights and sizes, and a British royal coat of arms overlooking the courtyard. 2 buildings in the district were purpose-built as recreational facilities. On the left, the 2-story commercial building immediately east of the L tracks housed a billiard parlor and a dance hall on the 2nd floor, with grocers as the most common tenants at street level. On the right is a 1923 Venetian Gothic-style building constructed as an amusement center. It was large enough for 20 bowling alleys, 34 billiard tables, game rooms, a restaurant, and 10 office spaces. An article from the time of its construction said entry will be gained through an elaborate lobby hung with oil paintings and tapestries, and the walls will be lined with elaborate high-backed chairs. Architecturally, the terracotta ornamentation and window treatment are reminiscent of Venetian Gothic palazzos in Italy. The Edgewater Presbyterian Community House is a 4-story concrete frame building that encompasses an entire block face within the district. Its 52,000 square foot interior was designed for multiple uses with 4th-floor ministers' apartments, classrooms throughout, plus a gymnasium and auditorium. The building's exterior, which is clad in gray Bedford, Indiana limestone, is designed in a Romanesque revival style with details taken from English Norman architecture. Elements include the use of smooth ashlar masonry in irregular sizes, window groupings divided by colonnettes, often with rounded arch lintels. The Norman influence is most evident at the building's entrances, which are deeply set arches with figurative carvings by sculptor Emil Zettler. The next three are the last wave of construction within the district, and these are the taller apartment hotel style buildings that were constructed after the original developer, John Cochran, passed away. So he had tried to restrict multifamily housing, and he passed away in 1923, and shortly thereafter, these buildings came on the scene. So this building is a 1927 design by Levy and Klein, the 12-story Bryn Mawr Apartment Hotel. It's a U-shaped building with approximately 231 apartments on floors 2 through 12. It is reinforced concrete, cream-colored face brick, and terracotta. The Gothic Revival style terracotta features numerous shields and pointed arches that are indicative of the Gothic Revival style. In 1916, this postcard on the left-hand side shows you what was the lavish Edgewater Beach Hotel. It was built just south of the Edgewater Beach Apartments, which is the only extant building from that grouping today. The Mediterranean Revival style building has a tripartite composition. A rectangular base supports the repeating residential floor plates above, the top two of which have a more ornamental design treatment incorporating projecting cornices in terracotta and sheet metal. The 19-story residential tower is X-shaped in plan to maximize light and ventilation in each apartment. The exterior is clad primarily in sunset pink stucco with light gray stucco accents on the upper two floors, and it is topped by a balustraded parapet with an octagonal cupola that has a hip roof and a flagpole. This building was designed by architect Benjamin H. Marshall. The last of the tall three apartment buildings is this 1928 design by architects Koenigsberg and Weisfeld. The 8-story Bellshore Apartment Hotel has approximately 140 apartments on floors 2 through 8. It also is constructed of reinforced concrete and is ornamented with polychrome terracotta that is in an Art Deco and Egyptian Revival style. Some of the detail on this slide that you can see is above the door, the polychrome terracotta in the shape of a rising sun, which reappears on some of the elements above the ground floor storefronts. Staff find that the district meets criterion 5 because the collection of buildings includes the works of architects who are significant both locally and nationally. The Edgewater Beach apartment building is the work of Benjamin H. Marshall. He was born in Chicago in 1874. He only received his only formal education was received from attending the Harvard School in Kenwood, an elite prep school where he was a classmate of John B. Drake II, who would later commission the architect to design the Drake Hotel. Marshall had a very flamboyant style, including the way that he dressed. He designed large resorts along the lakefront, one of which is in Wilmette in a Spanish Renaissance style that featured a tropical garden and cost $1 million to construct in 1921. Another work by Marshall is the South Shore Country Club, now the Cultural Center, and it is another example of a Mediterranean Revival design attributed to him. It too overlooks Lake Michigan waterfront. Another significant architect responsible for buildings in the district is J.E.O. Pridmore. The Manor House was designed by architect J.E.O. Pridmore. He was born in England, studied architecture at Greenhill College in Birmingham, and came to America in 1880. After settling in Chicago, he designed a number of buildings, which include an expansion and remodel of his own parish, the Church of the Atonement, which is also nearby here in Edgewater. Outside of Edgewater, Pridmar is perhaps best known for his 1901 design of the Bush Temple of Music, a designated Chicago landmark. Located on the northwest corner of Clark Street and Chicago Avenue, the building housed the Bush Gertz Piano Company, as well as a recital hall and music practice studios. The third architects called out for significance are the firm of Perkins, Fellows, and Hamilton, who designed the Edgewater Presbyterian Community House. The community house was a later work of the architectural firm. The partnership is one of the most significant early 20th century Chicago architecture firms, having designed numerous prominent buildings from 1910 to 1929 in progressive, non-historic architectural styles. The building that housed their architecture firm is a designated Chicago landmark located at 814 North Michigan Avenue, adjacent to the old Chicago Water Tower. Among the firm's most important works is the 1912 Lion House at the Lincoln Park Zoo, the South Pond Refectory, now Cafe Brower, as well as these two school buildings, Carl Schurz High School, and in Edgewater, the Trumbull School. Staff find that the district meets criterion 6 for its theme as a district. The district displays a distinct visual unity based on the consistent scale, relationship to the sidewalk, design, size, use of materials, and overall detailing of the district's buildings. It possesses a distinctive and recognizable sense of place within the larger context of the Edgewater neighborhood. In terms of integrity, we recommend that the district meets this criterion. The most typical alterations to historic features over time are replacement windows on upper floors within the same rough opening and ground floor storefront modifications, both of which are common in commercial districts and can be rehabilitated over time as part of future maintenance and repair work. Staff recommends the significant features of the district are all exterior building elevations, including roof lines, visible from the public right-of-way. We have support from 48th Ward Alderwoman Mana Hoppenworth, who, as I mentioned, is here today, as well as several local stakeholder groups who wish to speak. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Eilish. Does the commission have any questions of Eilish at this time? Commissioner Burns, go ahead.
Thanks, Eilish. Your presentation didn't mention which, if any, of the buildings proposed for this district already have City of Chicago landmark status. Could you address that?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So along this stretch, the two of the apartment towers, which you can see in this view, the one on the left with the green terracotta, which is the Belshore apartment building. The one on the right that had more of the Gothic Revival style ornament, that's the Bryn Mawr Avenue apartments. Both of those are existing designated Chicago landmarks.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Alderwoman Mana Hoppenworth, would you like to say something?
Sure. Good afternoon, Commissioners, Landmark Commission. Thank you, Eilish. I want to thank you, Eilish, for all your work on this incredible report. I learned so much, and so did our community. I want to just add that this is something that the community has been asking for a very long time. Edgewater, the Bryn Mawr Business District was the first commercial corridor in Edgewater. We intentionally chose to have our 48th Ward office on Bryn Mawr. We also share Bryn Mawr with the state senator in the 7th District, a little east of us, because we know the potential of this district. It's seen a lot of ups and downs because of the pandemic and because of the reconstruction of the Red Line, which has been ongoing for at least 5 years. A lot of small businesses have suffered because of that. It's also a very diverse area. And we like that. You know, we want to stabilize this area, and giving Bryn Mawr a landmark designation will help that. It will help firstly preserve what we already have. I learned so much about architecture and the design elements. What struck me as I was reading through this report were so many of the architects not only built Edgewater, but they also lived and they worked in Edgewater. So I imagine all the builders did too. So this is really, truly an Edgewater produced district. I also want to mention that we had extensive community outreach. We had 2 mailings via USPS, 1 survey, 3 group meetings, 4 attempts to do one-on-one meetings with property owners. We had business canvases with our business owners and building owners. We had a meeting email reminder for this meeting and invited folks to come with us today. And we have a weekly newsletter and a blog. So we included this at least 4 times in the last year since the early 2025. I also just want to say that this is a very special place. Again, this is the heart of Edgewater. We want to help instill a deep sense of civic pride. And we already have that. Again, so many of our neighbors have been asking for this. Edgewater Historical Society, I believe, is here. We have a Bryn Mawr Alliance that's been working with us for many months now. And so I hope that this commission will please give favorable consideration to help put Bryn Mawr on the map finally, and to designate preliminary landmark designation for Bryn Mawr. Thank you.
Alderwoman. Does the commission have any questions for Alderwoman? Go ahead.
Hello. I'm a constituent of yours. I walk this stretch every day to and from work. It means a lot to have you show up and advocate for the Landmark District. It's a great opportunity. I wanted to ask a little bit about the response we've gotten from local business owners of the commercial businesses along this stretch, because you pointed out accurately that since the pandemic and waiting for the completion of the L station, it's been quiet and there's been a lot of empty businesses. So I guess I'm asking what response have you gotten, positive and negative, and how is your office preparing to work with the Preservation Division to help owners of these commercial storefronts go through the process of review to be able to reinvigorate and fill the commercial corridor?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for walking down Bryn Mawr. It is a pedestrian-friendly ward throughout. And the fact that Bryn Mawr Station is new, brand new, we're very proud of it. I'm a small business owner myself. It has been very hard since the pandemic. And so being in touch with all these small businesses has been easy for me to do, to check in on them. But since the start of my term in 2023, folks have been asking, what is it that we can do? And I always say, what is it that we can do together? So we are convening many of them as many times as possible, not only for the Bryn Mawr Historic District, but to celebrate, for instance, the opening of the Bryn Mawr train station. Also to encourage new business owners, of which we have 15 new businesses on Bryn Mawr. I don't know if you've noticed, but Fried Egg Cafe is open now, Solar Intentions, and so Roots and Rituals also, Hamburger Mary's, and we have other things in the works. I hope that you'll be a part of that. But we have a fantastic Chamber of Commerce as well, the Edgewater Chamber of Commerce, that's been helping us to build up momentum for this designation. And also we convened the Bryn Mawr Alliance, which is stakeholders, including business owners, property owners, constituents in the ward, to survey the neighborhood. What is it that we need? And one of the things that that kept coming up to the top is Bryn Mawr is like a city, is like a main street in a small town. It really is. And we are challenged because It is a thoroughfare to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Yes, we have a lot of cars, but it's also very, very pedestrian friendly. And so we want to elevate that and to encourage other small businesses to fill the rest of the empty storefronts that are there. And so again, one of the things that we want to encourage constituents to do is to continue to support small businesses and also for new businesses to look at Bryn Mawr as an opportunity. And designating Bryn Mawr as a historic district, it's already nationally landmarked, is going to put us on the map. And we need that designation to help elevate why Bryn Mawr and Edgewater is so special. So close to the train, so close to so many buses, steps away from the lakefront. Incredible small businesses, whatever taste you have, you can have that kind of dish on Bryn Mawr on Broadway. Please come visit Edgewater.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just end by saying that the preservation staff here is incredibly talented in working with business owners to navigate the process of updating landmark businesses. So I would just encourage making sure that that network is utilized as you talk to existing owners and new folks. There's a lot of education to get to the point of rehabbing these buildings, but it's very doable. So I encourage it, and I'm really excited for where we can go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for being a resource. The Preservation Division, Eilish, and Department of Planning and Development has been incredibly helpful and a fantastic resource. So we will absolutely lean on you for that.
Thank you. Any other questions for one? Are there any other elected officials who want to speak on this matter? Okay. If not, I will go to the public comment section. There were a number of people who have signed up not to speak, but they wanted to be recorded. Craig Roger is opposed to the project. Tim Bateman is in favor of the project, and Melanie Tillmans also is in favor of the project. There have been two people who signed up who didn't indicate whether they wanted to speak or not. Amir Akhabid indicated they were opposed, as well as Virginia Rogner from Superior Management also signed up, said they were opposed to the project. If you would like to speak, if you could. I understand. I have a whole list. Here. So Virginia and Amir, if you want to speak, please indicate that on this card. We'll pass it back to you. First person signed up to speak is Janelle Sherrill.
Good afternoon. My name is Janelle Sherrill, and I'm here to support the landmarking of the Bryn Mawr Historic District in Edgewater. I'm a resident of the district, but I'm also retired Midwest Senior Field Officer from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I also serve now as the co-chair of a newly formed Edgewater Historical Society's Advocacy Task Force, which we formed to help revitalize the Bryn Mawr Avenue. My husband and I moved to Edgewater, the Edgewater Beach Apartments, which is within the proposed district, 8 years ago because we loved the building and we loved the neighborhood. Now Bryn Mawr Avenue is at a tipping point. When we first moved to Edgewater in 2018, Bryn Mawr was a thriving commercial and residential area with wonderful restaurants and small businesses. Since COVID and the Red Purple Line modernization project, our neighborhood has become disinvested and an eyesore. We have some wonderful new businesses moving in on the street recently, but there's still too many vacant storefronts and land left vacant by the CTA. Creating a local landmark district on Bryn Mawr between Broadway and Sheridan will provide, will provide property owners with financial incentives to help improve their properties. And it will also assure that the character of any new development in the area will fit into this wonderful historic corridor. In-depth economic analyses of historic preservation across the country have proved that locally landmarked districts will help attract small businesses and encourage heritage tourism, which will bring new people to the neighborhood, which is exactly what we need to revitalize Bryn Mawr Avenue. We're also excited for local landmarking so that Bryn Mawr can benefit from its other advantages, including protecting the environment by conserving natural resources and by not adding the 25% of material that goes into landfills from demolitions and construction waste. It will encourage density, will create more jobs for laborers hired to restore the buildings, and increase property values, which as a whole tend to increase in historic districts. Thank you for your time, and I ask that the commission grant the Bryn Mawr Historic District preliminary landmark status.
Thank you, Ms. Sherrill. Christina Sanchez.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Christina Sanchez, and I've lived in the Edgewater neighborhood since 1977 and worked on Bryn Mawr since 1986. And I currently manage the properties at 1125 through 31 West Bryn Mawr, 1133 through 47 West Bryn Mawr, and 5549 North Broadway. I want to begin by acknowledging that preserving history is important. Our neighborhoods tell the story of who we are and that history deserves thoughtful consideration. However, I stand here to respectfully oppose the proposed landmark designation for Bryn Mawr Street. At its core, this proposal places significant and lasting burdens on the very people who live and invest in this community. Landmark designation does not simply honor history, it imposes real restrictions on property owners. Routine maintenance, repairs, and even modest exterior improvements can require approvals at a time and increased expense. For many homeowners and small business owners, these are not minor inconveniences, they are meaningful obstacles. There are also clear financial implications. Landmark requirements often mean higher costs for the materials and specialized labor, limiting the ability to make affordable upgrades. Improvements that many of us value today, such as energy-efficient windows or modern building systems, can become more difficult to implement. These constraints may also deter potential buyers, ultimately affecting property values and the long-term stability of the neighborhood. We must also consider the broader economic impact. Designating an entire street can discourage new investment and limit opportunities for thoughtful redevelopment. Businesses may hesitate to locate in areas with strict regulatory oversight, and property owners may be less inclined to improve or adapt their buildings. In a city that must balance preservation with growth, this kind of blanket restriction risks holding the community back. Equally concerning is the one-size-fits-all nature of this proposal. Not every building on Bryn Mawr Street may meet the threat.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Jessica Jackson. She's a business.
Okay, so between that speaker and the lady that spoke right before them. They gave very valuable information and very valuable things to consider about this landmark stuff. Okay, so, but what I do want to say is this. It's one thing to see you all so excited about how you're going to fix up other parts of the city, but you don't have any plan to fix up the South Side. That's bad. Now, this alderwoman right here, and I don't want to mess up her name, but you know who she is. She's nothing. She's nothing. She sits in these meetings all the time and have nothing to contribute to anything except for the fact that she's the first queer alder person. Nobody cares about what you do in your bedroom. We care about how you run the city. She doesn't do anything. In fact, it was a special on TV, breaking news one day, not too long ago, and it was her ward, and it was people from her ward talking about how she was telling them not to report crimes and stuff because she wanted to make sure that the crime rate stayed low in her neighborhood. Just like she voted against ShotSpotter when she knows ShotSpotter when she knows that it was needed. Just like she talking right now with this man not listening, but that's how come we coming for her seat. See, she's going to lose that seat, and she can play it off, but she's going to lose that seat because of stuff like this. You got people talking, and she's going to sit here and talk to this man while I'm talking. That's seat-getting behavior. That's seat-getting behavior. You better understand, we're not playing. We're not playing. This is where we live. You want to talk about landmark stuff? Take this on. My mother, my father, my grandmother, my uncle, who was a vet, moved into our building in 1962. That was before the Civil Rights Act was even passed. Come on, we was the first Black family on the block. I'm landmark. And now Prisoner trying to steal over there? I'm landmark. I dare you talk when I'm talking. I'm going to catch you on the next 3 minutes because what I'm going to say is I'm getting ready to file a lawsuit against the commissioner on Chicago landmarks for discrimination. The fact that y'all's talking about landmarking and fixing up the north side and y'all want to keep on ignoring the south side and tearing down our buildings, I'm filing a lawsuit of discrimination against this committee. And I'm going to take it to the federal so that y'all don't have to worry about.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Debbie Dodge.
Thank you again. I am here seriously and strongly in support of landmarking this district. I've spent a great deal of time in this neighborhood because it's home to important storefront theaters, including Red Twist, Red Theater, and City Lit Theater. In fact, City Lit, which is housed in the historic Edgewater Presbyterian Church building, is the oldest storefront theater in Chicago. It's a joy to be in this neighborhood because of the many fine building styles which Eileen described earlier, and because it's home to many successful businesses and residences. And we've already heard about the Bellshore Apartment Hotel, the Manor House, and the Edgewater Beach Apartments. And a huge number of residents throughout the city can easily identify the gloriously pink Edgewater Apartments. So while some of these buildings are listed on the National Register of Historic Places, it's Chicago landmarking that provides true preservation of these buildings. And it gives property owners local financial incentives for restoration as well. So thank you for saying yes to landmarking the historic Bryn Mawr district in its entirety.
Thank you, Ms. Dodge. Leroy Blumart.
Good afternoon, and I'm confident it will be. My name is Leroy Blumert. I'm co-chair of the Edgewater Historical Society's Historic Sites Committee, and I'm here representing the society this afternoon. So the Edgewater Historical Society wholeheartedly and enthusiastically supports the recommendation to have the Bryn Mawr National Register Historic District be given Chicago landmark status. This action has been one of the Society's long-standing preservation objectives. We applaud Alderperson Lenny Manahathur Hoppenworth for urging the Commission staff to prepare the preliminary recommendation. We all know that except in very rare circumstances, unless the local alderperson is in favor of landmark designation, it doesn't happen. And if the local alderperson is opposed, it almost never happens. So she deserves a great deal of credit for moving this forward, and we thank her for that. Bryn Mawr between Broadway and Sheridan Road played an important role in the development of Edgewater. As was pointed out, it was the first commercial street in John Lewis Cochran's Edgewater, and he was the founder. It was the location of many Edgewater firsts, the first meeting hall, the first grocery store, the first meat market, the first drugstore, first candy store, the first plumbing store, the first mixed-use building, and the first post office east of Clark Street. It was also the first stop in Edgewater on the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul's Evanston division. We also urged the commission at a later date to consider extending the district to include a few additional buildings on the east and west side of the Bryn Mawr Broadway Ridge intersection. And on a personal note, this has a special meaning for me because when I first started out on my own, I lived in the Tudor building on the second floor in Bryn Mawr. So Bryn Mawr was where I stopped when I went to the Al to work. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. For the record, Amir Akabid has elected not to speak, but is opposed to the project. Virginia Rogner would like to speak. I'm going to call her up now. But the next three people, if you could line up, Kendra Parson, Tim Lader, and Dwight Elmore. I have a number of others. You're
Hello, everyone. I am Vicki Rogner, born and raised in Edgewater for, I'll just throw my age out there, almost 56 years. I've seen a lot of changes, but I'm gonna piggyback on my manager over there, where she got cut off stating that even though the historical thing is nice, the buildings are nice, I'm wondering how many of you guys actually live there? How many of you guys actually own property or businesses there? That it seems pretty simple for you guys to say, yeah, let's just go ahead and make this a landmark. And what about the people that have been living there and working there? I actually work where the old Bryn Mawr Theater used to be. You guys make that a landmark, and Mr. Al-Kahid decides, hey, let's bring the Bryn Mawr Theater back. I was 7 years old when I first went to the Bryn Mawr Theater. We won't be able to do that. You guys are tying our hands to try to be able to make the community a better community as it moves forward. I think not every building on Bryn Mawr may meet the threshold for true historical significance, applying uniform restrictions across the entire corridor, risk overreaching the unnecessarily regulatory properties that do not warrant it. We should also think about the future. Neighborhoods evolve to meet changing needs, whether that means improved accessibility, increased housing, or sustainable upgrades. Landmark designation can effectively freeze in a place of time, limiting our ability to respond to those needs. This is not preservation. This is kind of like strictness. Finally, there are real equity concerns. The costs and responsibilities associated with landmark status fall most heavily on individual property owners, many of whom already have managing type budgets. Without substantial support or initiative, these requirements can create financial strain and in some cases contribute to displacements. In closing, I will argue you to consider a more balanced path forward, one that protects genuinely significant historical access without imposing sweeping restrictions on an entire street. Preservation should be thoughtful, targeted, and collaborative, not burdensome, or inflexible. I feel like I appreciate all the visitors that enjoy my neighborhood, but visiting it shouldn't override the vote of the people who actually own and reside there. I heard Lenny say that so many people came and they're all on board. I don't know who she talked to. My boss owns that building in the corner southeast, and
Thank you. Kendra Parson, please.
Hello again. I am Kendra Parson, Advocacy Manager for Landmarks Illinois, and I'm delighted to voice our support for the designation of the Bryn Mawr Historic District. The Historic District has been listed on the National Register since 1995. It is the historic commercial heart of Edgewater. In April 2025, Landmarks Illinois provided a letter of support for the rezoning of the Broadway Avenue corridor with certain caveats. And one of those caveats was our concern for the future of the Bryn Mawr National Register Historic District. Without local protection, it was our fear that this recognized historic area would become vulnerable to a wave of demolitions. So we would like to thank Alderman Manna Hoppenworth for taking that concern seriously and advancing Bryn Mawr as a local district for your consideration, and we urge you to vote in favor of moving that forward today. As the city pursues municipal-led upzoning here and in other corridors across the city, we encourage the proactive landmark designation of significant buildings and districts along those corridors, as well as the incentivization through other means of the retention and reuse of neighborhood character and orange-rated buildings as a complement to new construction opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Lader.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Lader. I've lived in Edgewater for 33 years. The last 2 years I've lived in the Edgewater Beach Apartment, so I am a neighborhood resident and property owner, and I'm here to speak in favor of the proposal for the reasons outlined by commission staff and by the alderwoman. It's a beautiful street. It needs some help. I think this landmarking would provide resources. I think it would provide clarity for property owners as to what the rules are going to be, and for any number of reasons for property owners, shoppers, tenants, and residents. I think this is a good idea, and I am in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dwight Elmore. And while we're waiting for them, the next three will be Lynetta Thomas, Mr. Blakemore, and Yuke Lee.
Good afternoon. My name is Dwight Elmore. I'm here to represent Edgewater Presbyterian Church, known to you all as Edgewater Presbyterian Community Center. This year we will be celebrating 100 years. And it was originally built as a community center by the Presbyterian Church. And then the Presbyterian Church was going to be built next door to it on Sheridan. But this happened during the Depression, and because of that, they weren't able to build a church. So the church had to move into the community center that they had built. And the church is occupying what was originally built to be a movie theater with balconies for the community. But right now we're using it as a church, and we still have our doors open as a community center. We have 27 different space shares that's in our building now, non-for-profit groups, artists, and also we open it to for groups to come in and play soccer in our gym, or for immigrant families to come in and to have use of the building. And we really would appreciate and we support the landmark status that's being placed there now. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Lynetta Thomas?
So we know what I'm here for because I came for the last agenda item. But when we're talking about preservation, we're talking about history, and you all are saying that you all need to preserve this so that people don't get displaced. Well, what happened in Chatham? What happened in Roseland? What happened in West Garfield Park? What happens in Washington Park? What happened to South Shore getting its full recognition? These are historical Black neighborhoods that have historical buildings that have been here as long as Edgewater has been here. It has a more significant impact on the city of Chicago, a more significant impact as far as the civil rights movement happened on the west side of Chicago. And they're not getting the historical landmark. Actually, people are being displaced out of their homes. When you're talking about making sure people don't get displaced from Edgewater, it's Black people being displaced every single day in Chicago in historical neighborhoods that have been designated by the national designation, but Chicago has not acknowledged it. And like they said, it takes for the city to acknowledge it in order for them to be protected. So if you're going to talk about protection, protect Black lives. Y'all were just screaming Black Lives Matter a few years ago. Then y'all went to All Lives Matter. So all Chicago neighborhoods matter. Look into every single neighborhood. There's historical buildings on the south side, historical buildings on the west side that are not being looked at. They're being overlooked. I'm seeing it right now because there's no alderman from the 9th Ward right here. There's no alderman from the 7th Ward. There's no alderman from the 8th Ward. There's no alderman from the west side wards, whatever they are. There's no alderman here speaking up for their wards. And there's no one in this commission speaking up for the Black wards. I know because I haven't seen anything being commemorated by this commission for Black neighborhoods to preserve our neighborhoods. Roseland is a historic neighborhood. It's historically white. If it's because the only thing I see is wealthy neighborhoods being preserved. It's about money. And if we're talking about money, make sure that money comes back to the same communities that you're saying you're trying to invest in. Because she don't need no money in her ward. She don't need preservation and displacement issues in her ward. People are just being displaced every day on the south and west side, every single day, from buildings that are not preserved, but they're historic. So don't come in here and act like you care about Chicago if you're not caring about the whole of Chicago.
Thank you. Mrs. Blakemore?
Houlihan, years ago, he would have everything that you're doing now. You have it out at the movie. He would have a copy, a book, and you would be able to take that book with you, and there would be knowledge. So things are different. So we have two Blacks that's present, that's sitting on this commission, yes. But I've been coming. I'm so elated and so happy to see these two members of our outstanding members of our community to come up to challenge what's going on in this city. So you can't blame her for looking out for her constituents. Or what the other lady came in and objected because she said that some of them wouldn't be financially able to rehab these buildings. So it's the tales of two cities. It's the rich whites, it's Hispanics, the Asian, and it's the poor Blacks. And we have Black faces in high places that's not advocating for their people. So all of you, we're not down here. I want you all to go back to the ghetto and get on your Altamont. Don't get on this white Altamont. Get on your Black Altamont. Go back to the ghetto and get on them selling you out. no economic development, historical. But the point that that other lady that objected to that, her point was that some people in that area are not financially able to come up to the criteria of a historical building. So it all ends up with the money. The money, honey. And when you don't have any money, the golden rule is he who has the gold rule. Now I'm looking at the color of the people on this committee right here. Me. 1, 2. 1, 2. And they get paid. Not to represent their constituent, but to represent the system. And that's why I'm here, to represent Black people. And that's why I told them and given them information. We must share our information with each other. We must help each other and love each other. The Pullman, yeah, the white section of the Pullman on the south side is rich. The Pullman Porter is rich with the Pullman were trained, but in the other, it's ghetto. So that's why racism is the big problem here. Racism is alive here. Waste, fraud, and abuse here.
Thank you, Ms. Blakemore. Euclid? Yuki?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Yuki Lee, Research Associate at Preservation Chicago, and I'd like to express my support for the Braemar Avenue District. This district represents a classic early 20th century neighborhood commercial corridor with mixed-use buildings and surrounding residential blocks. The consistent building scale, continuous storefronts, and the cohesive streetscape together create a strong and recognizable sense of place. The presence of individual prominent buildings shows the significance of this area, and the district designation would strengthen and extend the recognition to a broader area, helping define it as a unified historical environment. At the same time, areas like Braemar are increasingly vulnerable to incremental changes such as storefront alternations, facade modifications, and redevelopment pressures, which can gradually erode the district character. Landmark status would help ensure that these defining features are preserved while still allowing for continued use and investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward Miller?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Again, for the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Driehaus, Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. We at Preservation Chicago are pleased to offer our support for this landmark district and the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Bryn Mawr Historic District. We've worked together with members of the community, stakeholders, and the Edgewater Historical Society for more than a decade towards this day. And we've also worked on several other projects and buildings that have entered the landmark process, including Epworth Church, the Lyman Trumbull School, now Waldorf School, one of the 49 public schools that were closed, and hoping one day for additional landmark districts like the Lakewood Balmoral District, a district along Broadway, and an Automobile Road District on the north side. We are grateful to this commission, DPD staff, Commissioner Boatwright, Alderwoman Manny Hoppenworth, and the Johnson administration for this designation. And, a special thanks to all the members of the Edgewater community, the Edgewater Historical Society that have worked so hard for the past decade plus, and a special thanks to Leroy Blomert, Janelle Sherrill, Tom Green, John Holden, and their long-term leadership in support of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not have anybody else that has signed up to speak on this matter. Is there any further discussion on this matter by the commission? Commissioner Fair.
Yeah, more so just a question to the staff. There's 6, 7 buildings in the district identified already as non-contributing. Can you just speak to a little bit of what the district being landmarked would mean for those buildings that have been identified as non-contributing, and what other options are available to those property owners?
Sure. So the 7 properties that we preliminarily determined to be non-contributing, should a permit be received for redevelopment or demolition of that building, it would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So there would be further research done into the structure, and that would all be part of the consideration of review for any proposed redevelopment or major alteration.
I can also add to that, Commissioner, obviously, when the commission determines that the building is non-contributing, it means it can be demolished. And the new structure that would take its place would just be then evaluated to be within a general scale and parameters of the district, but otherwise would just go through the standard permit review committee review.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments by the commission? Having none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Bryn Mawr Avenue District, located primarily at the 900 to 1100 blocks of West Bryn Mawr Avenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Commissioner Jekowitz, and a second by Commissioner Rubin. Do the roll call. Commissioner Boatright?
Yeah.
Commissioner Blakely? Commissioner Burns? Commissioner Fair? Commissioner Rubin, you second that? I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is, where are we? 4. The Chicago Daily News Building located at 2 North Riverside Plaza and 400 West Madison Street. This is in the 42nd Ward. And Kendallin, I think you're doing this one.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So in July of 2025, 2 North Riverside owner LLC acquired the 26-story Art Deco Chicago Daily News building from the estate of the late Sam Zell. As part of their planned renovation of the structure, they requested Chicago landmark designation so that they could take advantage of the Class L incentive. And my presentation will provide staff recommendations regarding the landmark criteria staff believe the building meets. The building had an original address of 400 West Madison. It changed to 2 North Riverside when the newspaper moved its headquarters and sold the property in 1960 to the Riverside Plaza Corporation. The property is in the 42nd Ward, and Alderman Brendan Riley supports the designation of the building. The Daily News building is located between Washington and Madison Streets on the west side of the Chicago River. And staff believe that the building meets 4 criteria for designation, including criterion 1. From its completion in 1929 until 1960, this building served as the headquarters and main printing plant of Chicago Daily News, one of the United States' most innovative daily newspapers. The paper employed over 2,000 people at this building. Chicago Daily News was founded in 1875 by Melville Stone and 2 partners as one of Chicago's few evening papers. It was a struggle, and when the partners gave up, Stone reached out to an old high school classmate, Victor Lawson, who agreed to purchase the newspaper for $6,000. Stone remained editor while Lawson took on the role of publisher and business manager. The partnership proved to be an inspired one as they built Chicago Daily News, the city's first penny paper, into the city's most widely read publication from the late 19th through the early 20th century. Through a combination of pioneering business strategies and a concise and engaging journalistic style. Among their many successful strategies, Lawson and Stone persuaded retailers to mark goods at odd prices ending in 9, so customers could take the leftover penny and purchase the Daily News. Another strategy was hiring an army of newsboys to sell the paper from corners in the loop and giving them a reason to stay with Daily News by providing a dedicated gymnasium at the newspaper's offices. Stone envisioned Chicago Daily News as a newspaper for the city's working and middle classes that would be informative, engaging, and free from the influence of those with money and power. This difference was visible. Unlike competitors who ran display ads from front page to back, the Daily News literally put news first, and all such advertising was at the back of the paper. Articles were brief, to the point. In 1877, when advertisers tried to keep newspapers from printing stories about the first general strike in American history, the Daily News supported the strikers, sending out journalists on horseback to report from the mobs of strikers with multiple edition updates. Stone strove to produce a higher quality of journalism than other papers, which tended to rely on sensationalist reporting. And as the poster on the right proclaimed, the Chicago Daily News is an impartial, independent newspaper. It's a member of the Associated Press. It prints all the news and sells it for 1 cent a day. It's a condensed paper. You can read it and still have time left for an honest day's work. So Lawson's sound business practices and Stone's dogged approach to journalism helped to propel the news to a circulation of over 20,000 by 1877, and the paper earned a national reputation for its journalistic integrity, including the beginning of detective journalism, where reporters actively sought out corruption and clues in criminal cases. And I doubt you can read it, but the title of the article it left is about the Republican victory of all the aldermen in the city of Chicago. So times have changed. As the newspaper expanded, the paper was widely recognized as a newspaperman's newspaper and became known for the quality of its writers and cartoonists. They included aspiring literary talents like poet Carl Sandburg, playwright, screenwriter Ben Hecht, cartoonists like Von Shoemaker, who created memorable characters like John Q. Public. This tradition continued through the newspaper's last decade of the 1970s, with columnists like Mike Royko, whose reporting and editorials influenced the shape of journalism in America. The paper's pioneering foreign news service, established by Victor Lawson in 1898, garnered international attention and became a model for other American newspapers. 13 Pulitzer Prizes were awarded to the paper between 1925 and 1972, including the first awarded to a Chicago paper and the first awarded for foreign correspondence. Now, given the names involved, staff are going to be digging deeper to see if this nomination could also qualify under Criterion 3 for famous persons. Stone retired in 1888. When Victor Lawson died in 1925, Walter Strong organized the finances to buy the paper and took over as publisher, continuing the trajectory begun by Stone and Strong's personal mentor, Victor Lawson. It was Strong who decided to make Lawson's vision of a new home for the Chicago Daily News a reality. So in addition to Criterion 1, staff recommend the building meets Criterion 4 for exemplary architecture. This building is a significant Art Deco skyscraper that epitomizes the style with its bold geometric form, use of setbacks which were influenced by the 1923 Chicago zoning ordinance, and modern stylized ornament. The building exterior exhibits fine craftsmanship and detailing in its use of materials, including limestone, granite, cast iron, and bronze metalwork. The design and construction of the building was covered in numerous architectural journals. It was also awarded gold medals from the Chicago AIA and the Architectural League of New York. The Daily News building is also significant as the first major office building in Chicago to be constructed using air rights over railroad tracks. Innovative engineering solutions to address the peculiar difficulties of such sites, including its truss and cantilevered framing system and a novel venting system for railroad engine exhaust. These developments would open up large parcels of downtown real estate which previously could not be developed. Additionally, its pedestrian concourse was an inventive solution to the separation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, which provided a link through the building to a commuter railroad station. The Riverfront Plaza was the first public plaza built for a private office building in Chicago and ranks as one of the earliest in the U.S. By choosing to engage the river, the Daily News building also fulfilled a concept recommended by the 1909 Plan of Chicago, which called for land along the river to be developed with fine commercial buildings, plazas, and double-deck streets. The building's bas-relief panels by noted Illinois artist Alvin Meyer are excellent examples of Art Deco design, using symbolic and figurative references to creative expression and the history of writing, printing, and American newspaper publishing. His stone griffins symbolize vigilance, and they ornament the plaza fountain dedicated to Lawson. The second floor concourse features original travertine-clad walls, gray Tennessee marble floors, and decorative metalwork. Highly decorative vestibules, lobbies, and corridors with cream, black, and pink marble and Art Deco metalwork are also intact in the building. Original Art Deco metalwork has been retained on both the first and second floors, and these examples show a balustrade, elevator doors, an ornament in a second floor lobby, and a radiator grille, one of many designs seen in the interior in the Art Deco style. Staff believe that building is also work of significant architects and designers whose work impacted the direction of architecture in the city and beyond. It's an outstanding work of Halliburton Root, one of the most significant early 20th century architectural firms, the successor firm also to Halliburton Roche, whose Chicago school buildings influenced the development of modern skyscrapers. The firm, led by John Halliburton and John Wellborn Root Jr., was preeminent in the U.S. for its innovative stepped-back commercial skyscrapers with their crisp geometric forms, setbacks, recessed vertical bands, and modern ornament. These four examples of the firm's work are designated Chicago landmarks. It's the Chicago Motor Club of 1928, the 1930 Chicago Board of Trade Building, 333 North Michigan, completed in 1928, and the Palmolive Building of 1929. Gilbert Hall, one of the firm's chief designers, was known nationally for his architectural renderings and a major contributor to the building's distinctive appearance. He also worked with Halliburton Root on the Board of Trade and Palmolive buildings. In 1932, Alfred Granger, former head of the Chicago AIA, called Hall, quote, the most brilliant designer of tall buildings in America. The sculptural ornament and bas-relief panels on the building were designed by Illinois artist Alvin Meyer. He designed sculptural ornament for the Chicago Board of Trade building as well and was appointed head of Halliburton Root's sculpture department in 1929. And lastly, staff believe the News Building is a unique visual feature in the city of Chicago. With its riverfront plaza and dramatic setback design, the Chicago Daily News Building is one of the most prominent historic buildings along the south branch of the Chicago River. In combination with the neighboring Civic Opera Building, the Chicago Daily News Building creates a distinctive cross-river urban ensemble second only to the grouping formed around the Michigan Avenue Bridge by the Tribune Tower, Wrigley, London Guarantee, and 333 North Michigan buildings. And this image of a postcard is from 1933. In addition to the criteria just discussed, staff believe the Daily News Building meets the separate integrity criterion. The exterior retains a high degree of integrity, including limestone-clad walls, decorative stonework, and metalwork. Windows and some storefronts have been replaced, but this is to be expected in a building of this age. The riverfront plaza also retains most of its physical fabric, including its riverfront balustrade and obelisks and the dock arcade below. The concourse has been partially remodeled, but retains its fundamental characteristics, including the spatial volume of the double-height concourse and upper-level arcade, the stone wall finishes, including double-height arched openings detailed with stepped profiles and foliate capitals, as well as Art Deco metalwork, including historic display cases and grills. Unfortunately, the John Warner Norton ceiling mural was removed in the 1990s. Nevertheless, the interior retains enough of the original materials, decoration, and configuration to appear much as it originally did. The building's principal public spaces, including the main entrance vestibule, corridors, and lobbies on both first and second floors, as well as their connecting stairs, also retain most of their original materials, forms, and details. Though some original elevators have been removed and the remaining elevators altered to meet modern safety standards, historic decorative elevator doors and ornament were incorporated into the new configurations. The majority of Art Deco metalwork has been retained, including grills over doors and radiators, objects such as mailboxes, and ornate balustrades and railings. Most original marble floor and wall cladding and decorative metal trim remain, as does variegated decorative plaster ceilings and trim. Based on its evaluation of the building, the Commission has the following recommendations, and for the sake of time, I'm going to paraphrase. So we have our typical recommendation for all exterior elevations, including roof lines. We would include the riverfront plaza, the basement one dock arcade facing the river, and the second floor southwest building lobby, the stair down to the first floor, the two elevator lobbies, including the north corridor. Here, a continued list, the double-height second-floor concourse spanning from the east riverfront to the west bridge, including but not limited to the overall spatial volume, the wall finishes, returns, display cases, etc. ornamental exterior east entrance surround and side vestibules, the outer lobby connecting the concourse to the second floor lobby. And lastly, there are additional guidelines suggested. Basically, the Commission's review of work for these spaces should ensure the historic features and character of the interior and exterior and the riverfront plaza are preserved long-term while allowing reasonable flexibility to meet continuing and new needs. This completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. As previously stated, Alderman Riley's in support of the designation, and ownership is here if you would like a statement or have questions for them.
Thank you, Kendallin. That was amazing.
And quick, I hope.
Does the commission have any questions for Kendallin? Having none, would the owners like to say a few words? Sure.
Tyler Quast with Blue Star Properties, Commissioner Wong, commission members. We really appreciate the opportunity. Blue Star appreciates the opportunity to be involved in this project with Landmarks, the opportunity to preserve this asset, rehabilitate this asset, and continue to make it the special thing that it is on the river. Further program, work with all the great features that it has to accentuate and expose to the rest of the public. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions? Okay. And you are looking at doing a adaptive reuse of this building to residential?
Correct. We're going to continue to use it as office. And, but we will accentuate the pedestrian walkway that's been kind of dormant for a bit, work with the plaza, the facade, et cetera.
Great. Thank you. Few folks have signed up to speak. Kendra Parson.
Oh, good afternoon once again. I am Kendra Parson, Advocacy Manager for Landmarks Illinois. It's very hard to overstate the importance of the Daily News building, a truly exceptional piece of Chicago Art Deco architecture. Dramatically towering over the river, this grand design communicates the one-time prominence of its namesake publication, the Chicago Daily News. It was the first office building in Chicago to feature the Riverfront Public Plaza and the first office building in the United States to take advantage of air rights over active railroad tracks. So just really interesting and significant all around. Landmarks Illinois included this building on our list of the most endangered historic places in Illinois in 2008. At the time, the former owner had put forward plans to build a new skyscraper on the Riverfront Plaza, a plan that luckily did not go forward. We also in that same year submitted a public suggestion to make this building a Chicago landmark. So from our perspective, this preliminary landmark designation has been quite a long time coming. We're also very interested to learn more of the details of the proposed Class L incentive for this building. But we urge the commission to vote in favor of preliminary landmark designation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynetta Thomas.
This is late. So I'm here because since we're talking about landmarks again, let's talk about the South Shore. I'm not a resident of the South Shore, but the South Shore is a historical area in Chicago. And what's going on in South Shore? We have the biggest 440 acres of land for the quantum facility that's being built on the South Shore neighborhood. I just want to make sure that when we talk about preservation and landmarking stuff, that the citizens of the South Shore neighborhood are protected from the displacement that is inevitable when this quantum facility is finished and up and running. A lot of citizens that don't know that their property is sitting on the slate and the chemicals are coming into their house and it's toxic. They don't know that they're slowly dying on the South Shore, especially from 71st to 95th, the east side of the South Shore Drive. That area is all toxic, and the city is not protecting those citizens that live there from this quantum facility that's being built by J.B. Pritzker and the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park right now. That 128-acre campus that's designed to house the biggest lab and be the first utility scale quantum computer in the world. And it will be built right in Chicago on South Shore in a Black neighborhood. And we've already seen that people have been pushed out of their neighborhoods. So when we're talking about preservation, let's make sure that we're preserving the South Shore area for the people that historically have lived there. Ms. Jessica is a South Shore resident. I don't think she even knew that they were going to eventually push her out for this quantum facility that's being built, that we have organizations that have been asked in the city to come out and protect their residents. And the city has not showed up for those meetings. The city has not promised to make sure that the residents of South Shore are protected once this quantum facility is finished. There's dust kicking up in the area. You're getting killed right now, Miss Jessica, living on the South Shore neighborhood, because there's dust kicking up that's not being mediated like they were supposed to. The gates are open. They're digging in this slate, and the chemicals in there are so toxic, and you have the school right there. It's stuff that's not being discussed when we're talking about landmarks. I haven't heard this from this commission ever. I don't never come to this meeting, but I just want to make sure that we're preserving South Shore too. Because I know a lot of people don't know that there's a big quantum facility being built on the South Shore neighborhood, and it's toxic to the residents. Let's preserve if we're going to preserve. Let's think about the residents in the future and those kids that are being in that toxic field every day.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Debbie Dodge?
Thank you again. There are many great reasons to landmark this building, and it's part in the colorful history of journalism in Chicago. It's just one of them. I mean, it had been the home, as mentioned earlier, to Sandberg, Hecht, and Royko. But it also has incredible architectural value to it as well. It's Art Deco design, but also its conversation with the Civic Opera Building. It's a great duo on the lake. It's a great contribution to the life of the river. And when I moved into Chicago from Evanston after going to grad school there, I used to commute and walk through the concourse. And it was one of my favorite parts of the commute because of the building itself and the wonderful Norton mural that was on the ceiling of the concourse. So I really appreciate your looking into and going forward with landmarking this building to highlight its history, its value, and its role in the ongoing life of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Jackson?
So it's amazing how you all can train your minds to really only be concerned about a certain part of the city and can really just block out the south side and the west side. But now when it comes time to get people in their seats and to get political stuff, all of a sudden you're going to remember the south side because it's going to be all about the crime on the south side, the crime on the west side. All of a sudden, everybody in this room is going to remember the south side. While you're sitting here today acting like the south side don't even exist. You leave me no choice. I'm going to have to file this race discrimination suit against the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Now, you all are sitting there, I bet you right now, not even believing that it's going to happen because you're just that cocky. And you've been able to do wrong for so long because you got somebody like J.B. Pritzker that's financing it, that's protecting you, and keep thinking that he can't be touched. Oh, yes, he can be, and he's going to be, because I got too many fraudulent documents on the people that he appoints. So I'm making up my little package, and I'm sending it to Trump. He'll get to it. He'll get to it. And y'all can act like you think he don't exist, he don't matter. Of course he does. He's the commander-in-chief. Of course he matters. And you seeing how Brandon Johnson is behaving right now. He talking all that smack, but look how he's rearranging transportation, how he's rearranging his violence prevention programs, because Trump done already said he gonna hold back this money if he don't straighten it out. And he can sit up here and talk all this no king junk and all that he want to, and y'all liberals can believe it. But President Trump is the commander-in-chief, and he got his eyes on Chicago. So I'm gonna give him something else to work with. I'm gonna lead him right to Governor J.B. Pritzker. And he's gonna get everybody that's doing wrong stuff with him. So if everybody's name is on this crooked stuff, oh, you gonna remember the South Side? Because it's gonna be Jessica Jackson from the South Side that's coming for you. Because you had no right to ignore South Side, the South Shore area, Hyde Park, as much as these people like my parents put into those areas and made those areas very affluent areas in Chicago. And then the crack epidemic came and did what it did, and it looks like it looks now, and you all will not put any more money back into our areas. But we got you. Believe that. We got you. We got you, Beaumont. I got you, girl.
Thank you. Mr. Blakemore.
The rich. The tales of two cities. The rich white. The rich get richer at the expense of the poor. That's that opera building. On Madison. And guess what? Reading is fundamental. I'm reading, they're going to get tax write-off. I'm reading. Tax the rich. These white folks are rich white people. And so whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And black people, Lola wants you to be gentrified out of the city with your black faces in high places, telling your people out, black alderman, black commissioner, black mayor. Telling your people out. You deserve the government you get, and you get the government you deserve. Now you want to beat up on these white folks. Beat up on these black folks. That's your kin folks who's selling you out. These people are rich. Rich. It's not a poor one that got up and spit in the mic. And then they're going to even be richer. But tax system. And then when you build that little courtway, if I go walking down and step on that riverfront, what are you doing? What are you doing there, nigga? You don't belong here. That's public property. They get money, the rich, at the expense of the poor. And that lady was talking about that toxic stuff. Yeah, that's where they put it, in the ghetto. You don't think they're going to put it up here, do you? You think that's going to be up here? They won't allow it. They will not have it. So it's very important that you ladies came up today, because I've been a little long ranger way too long without a tongue. So again, these people are rich. The golden rule is those who have golden rule. Now, all you doing, Mr. Blakemore, is just talking loud. Say it loud. The golden rule is those who have the gold rule. These are rich white folks. And they are my kinfolk. And how did they get rich? At the expense of slave labor. Black blood made America great. Now, make America great again, my black people. Stand up and fight and fight for your rights. And Brother Trump, you're a racist too. I want you to come here and clean up this swamp right here.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Ward Miller.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Once again, for the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. We are here today to enthusiastically support this designation of the Chicago Daily News Building, located at 2 North Riverside Plaza in downtown Chicago. The Chicago Daily News Building is was one of our Chicago 7 most endangered buildings and has continued to be so until its recent sale to Blue Star Properties. And that was one of our most endangered since 2008. And as you heard from Kendra Parson, both organizations in that year nominated the Chicago Daily News Building as one of our most endangered, both in Chicago and in the state of Illinois. We are grateful that this remarkable Art Deco building by Halliburton Root, one of their city's great architecture firms, entered this landmarks process. And thanks to the new owner, as mentioned, Blue Star Properties, along with their team, and Tyler Quast, who sits here before us and who spoke to you earlier. This day has been decades in the making. Terry Tatum, one of our city's foremost historic preservation researchers, who used to work in this department and prepared so many of these reports, who passed away a number of years ago, was asked at a public forum about 12 years ago, which building, if he had to choose in downtown Chicago, would he landmark? And in this public forum, he mentioned the Chicago Daily News Building, which had been languishing, threatened with demolition over time and replacement with larger buildings, both on its plaza and its wholeness, demolished and perhaps a new development site. And of course, we saw that happen with the building behind, originally the Chicago Northwestern Station by Frost and Granger, with the largest Guastavino vault in the world that was demolished under the Byrne administration. But it's just really wonderful to know that on this day, decades in the making, that the Chicago Daily News Building is suddenly entering the landmarks process. And we're very excited and supportive of that. We also wanted to share that we at Preservation Chicago recently found the John Norton mural, the 180-foot long ceiling mural that decorated the ceiling of the arcade that connected you from Riverside Plaza to the bridge going into Northwestern Terminal. And, you know, it's been 33 years that it's disappeared and was taken into storage due to a leak and some falling material. We don't wish to hold this landmark designation or this Class L up in this process, but we would like this commission and the city to work with the owner, Blue Star Properties, to figure a way to protect this really significant.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Nobody else has signed up to speak on this item. Is there any further discussion by the commission? If not, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Chicago Daily News Building at 400 West Madison, 2 North Riverside Plaza. Is there a motion? Commissioner Burns moved, and second, Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Jekowitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Boatright. Commissioner Blakely. Commissioner Rubin. And I am a yes as well. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is the Class L property tax incentive application for the same building, the Chicago Daily News Building at 2 North Riverside Plaza. And Eilish, if you could take us to that.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. Eilish Tuffy, Coordinating Planner. The project before you is a Class L application for the building at 2 North Riverside Plaza. The former Daily News Building is located on the west side of the Chicago River, located in the 42nd Ward. We have received a letter of support for the Class L from Alderman Riley. Staff have reviewed and preliminarily approved a rehabilitation plan set for this project. The scope of work will not require PRC review as currently proposed. The Class L application to rehabilitate the 1929 former newspaper headquarters was received on August 25th. As mentioned by my colleague, the applicants are seeking landmark designation in tandem with this Class L incentive. On the screen is a view of the south facade facing Madison Street. Along this elevation, part of the exterior scope will be storefront rehabilitations at street level. This slide shows the northwest corner of the building's existing conditions as well as the northeast corner facing Washington. All 4 elevations will be cleaned as part of the project scope using the gentlest means possible. Masonry repairs will occur on all elevations. Limestone damaged beyond repair will be replaced in kind. Cleaning of all facades and tuck pointing of eroded mortar is in the scope. The concrete sidewalk vaults will be repaired and reinforced. This is a shot that shows the plaza and that concrete surface level. Structural repairs, stormwater management improvements, installation of a waterproof membrane, and repair of the concrete plaza itself is part of the scope. 1 new entry will be provided to the plaza from the east elevation of the building by dropping an existing sill down to grade. Office space on the upper floors will be prepared for prospective new tenants, office tenants. Non-historic partitions will be removed. Elevator lobbies, common hallways, and restrooms will be rehabilitated, and the tenant spaces will be outfitted by those individual tenants. All building systems will also be updated as part of this project. On the second floor lobby, which is historically significant, features will be retained and restored as needed. And the publicly accessible concourse, which provides that passage between the East Plaza and the Ogilvie train station to the west, will be renovated as part of the scope. This plan showed this elevation of the interior concourse shows where the historic arcade, which was later converted to retail spaces, is going to be rehabbed as part of this project. The applicant proposes to update the commercial tenant areas, replacing non-historic security gates that face the public during off hours with new clear glazed storefronts of a consistent design and material. The total project cost is just under $70 million for this project, which includes the $30 million acquisition cost of the property. Cook County's 2025 full market value for the building was placed at $38 million. Therefore, the team must invest at least $19 million in Class L eligible expenses to qualify for the rehabilitation incentive. The team expects to exceed that minimum threshold by $16 million, estimating $35 million to be spent on eligible rehabilitation costs. The project will also achieve 40 points to meet sustainability requirements, which will include basic bird protection, bike parking facilities, EV charger readiness, and a maximum of 40% glazing on the building. Current annual taxes are just over $3.5 million for the building. The projected total tax abatement to the applicant is $28 million, and the net benefit to the taxing districts is minus $3.4 million. When the incentive expires, the year 13 taxes are estimated to be approximately $5.8 million, which is an increase of over $2.3 million. Staff seeks the Commission's recommendation of approval for this Class L application. This concludes my presentation. Members of the project team in attendance today are Tyler Quast, COO of Blue Star Properties, the developer, Lauren Monroe, the project architect with Blue Star Properties, Steve Pearlman and Annie Reed, the property tax attorneys with Steve Pearlman and Associates, Emily Ramsey with Ramsey Historic Advisors, and Bridget O'Keefe, attorney for the applicant with Marshall Brown LLP. Thank you.
Thank you, Eilish. Does the commissioner have any questions for Eilish? Commissioner Burns.
Thanks. Eilish, you mentioned stormwater management features. One, can you confirm, is that part of this incentive that's being proposed? And just tell us a little bit more about those, particularly how they will be responsive to the sensitivity of the river adjacent to the property.
Yeah, great question. Yes, it is part of the scope. I will defer to the project team to answer the particulars as to the design and relationship to the Chicago River.
Good afternoon, Bridget O'Keefe with Marshall Brown, here today on behalf of the applicant. I'm accompanied by Lauren Monroe, who's the project manager and architect with Blue Star Properties, and she can address this issue.
Hello, Lauren Monroe, project architect with Blue Star Properties. The stormwater is existing system to be maintained, excuse me, and reattached. It's been deteriorating over time due to the slope. It's at the river wall of the plaza, large trough drains. So we're going to repair a lot of the corroded cast iron to restore the existing condition.
So just to confirm, what is being proposed is repair of the current system rather than enhancements and adding more green infrastructure.
Correct, repair of the existing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Fair.
Yeah, it's mostly a question about the programming of the building. So, at a time where we've seen a lot of the former office buildings in the central business district move over to mixed use, it's notable that the plan here is to maintain and renovate the office space. So just in the interest of this being, a successful endeavor for, future taxes, is there any thoughts to, basically the success of that office space, attracting tenants? Is there any commitments that you guys have in plan already?
Tyler unfortunately had to step out for a moment, but what I can say is that the building is currently 50% vacant, 57% vacant. The focus is going to be office. Blue Star Properties has a rich history in entertainment also and hospitality, so they're going to be reactivating the plaza space and the second floor space to make it more attractive to tenants. What's interesting about this building is that first of all, it's a lovely building. It's great to see you're all so excited about the redevelopment. It has smaller office spaces, which is great, but it's the proximity to the train station obviously makes it just so unique. So Blue Star is very optimistic about the prospects for the office use. But it does have a ways to go. So that's why this redevelopment is needed.
Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
In the presentation, it was mentioned cleaning the masonry as being part of the incentive. And then there's some photos of spalling in the overall building. Is that also included in the scope of work? And what are the methods planned for cleaning in consideration of preserving the masonry and the mortar joints as well?
Hi, thank you. Yes, Lauren Monroe again with Blue Star Properties. We are planning to use a gentle biological cleaner. We have already done a couple of mock-ups with the assistance of staff to review the success of that product and the gentle pressure of the water pressure for the cleaning as well, so that the porous limestone isn't damaged. There are many existing Dutchman repairs from prior spalls that are present on the building, and any new spalls will be done with a Dutchman repair in a better match than the prior repairs. And hopefully any corroded anchors can also be removed on an ongoing basis as we continue the repairs around the perimeter of the building.
Thank you.
I think that's it, unless you all have anything more that you want to add. No?
No, thank you. We'd also like to thank the staff. Everyone's been great to work with, as always, on this project, and we appreciate all the assistance getting us here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bridget. Okay. If there are no other questions from the owner, I'll go to the public comments. Kendra Parson had signed up in favor of the project, but does not wish to speak. Lynetta Thomas, please.
I know y'all about tired of me. This the last, y'all can take me off the rest because me and Miss Jessica gotta go eat. But I find it real funny that the Blue Star Project has this project with no tenants. So you're essentially asking the taxpayers to pay for a thought. They have no tenants, but they're getting an incentive that the taxpayers have to pay for. So we're paying for the hope that someone will rent out the space. Was any research done that says that people actually want to be in that building? Was there a poll of the community that says, oh, we would like some more spaces in there? I know it wasn't done. Because anytime the city sent out a survey, I get it. I know it wasn't done. No, nothing against them. Let them make their money. Let them make their money, but not at the expense of taxpayers. Why am I paying for an empty building? For a promise or a hope that they will get tenants. A hope that they will get tenants. The way that this city has violence in the downtown neighborhood, in this neighborhood, you will not get tenants. All those companies left Chicago during COVID. This city is not valuable to no company that's trying to make money because there's always crime afoot in this area, that area. Companies will more likely move to the south side before they move downtown because you have an issue like migrants in front of the buildings on the corners downtown. So we're about to pay for them to hope that someone gets there. This is not even valuable to the taxpayers because we don't get nothing out of it. It says a negative. There's a negative reward for this. Negative 0.13, whatever figure she said, it was negative. It wasn't a positive. It was a reverse projection. So how does this help the citizens of Chicago? Because it's a historical building. It's a beautiful building. We're going to pay a tax incentive on a building that no one wants to be in.
Thank you. Debbie Dodge.
Investing in this building is very important, regardless of what other people may have said. And I think that moving forward with this plan as outlined is going to benefit the city as a whole, commuters as a whole, and the business environment in the city. It will help spur additional businesses to move back into the city.
The governor's out.
Could you, Judge? Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Jessica Jackson.
Right here today is a perfect example as to why the government fought so hard for so long to keep us from being able to read. Because when you can read, it's very hard for people to be able to pull stuff over on you. That's why this government fought hard to keep us from being able to read. Now, I find it funny that you coming in here talking about property initiative, tax initiatives, but anything that got to do with anything downtown. We already have sat here, again, as residents of the South Side and West Side, and just got property tax bill increases up to 133% increase. And the reason they gave was because we had to pick up the slack of the fact that the North Side and downtown had empty buildings that they couldn't get tenants for, and therefore they lost income. And that's why they got a tax break. And they put all that tax load on the South Side and West Side. And you gonna say regardless of what we think? No, I'm gonna say regardless of what you talking about. I don't believe that you had the audacity to stand here and say that about citizens that's sitting right here that's advocating for their community. And you got the gall to say regardless of what they think. No, lady, regardless of what you think. Your thoughts mean nothing except for stealing, conniving, manipulating. That's what your thoughts represent. So I say, have no regard for you, thief. Now I'm gonna go get me something to eat because I'm sick of this. And I'm just gonna go ahead and file my lawsuit. Because y'all not gonna do that. Y'all just hit us with up to 133% tax increase, property tax increase, because we got to pick up the slack for y'all bad business decisions for up north. At what point do white people hold themselves accountable for the decisions that they make? At what point do you all see black people? It's not just for y'all to make money off of. Oh, I forgot that was the plan from 1619. I'm gonna tell you one thing. Keep playing. Keep thinking that we're not listening. Keep thinking we don't understand. Yes, we do. And the way that y'all gonna understand that we understand is when y'all get to clink clink. Because y'all going to jail. You're going to jail, Miss Have No Regard. You think you can't go to jail? You think that's just for black people, huh? No, they like what they lock white people up. And in fact, they done locked up more white public officials in Illinois than
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Blakemore?
Thank you. Slave labor made America rich. Slave labor, they just take what they want. They just bully a tax incentive for them. But these ladies, thank God for these ladies. Sometimes I don't get along with them, but I'm glad they're here. These are smart ladies. These are intelligent ladies. These are articulate ladies, and they black. Now, only sales, that's only sales. All these old empty buildings that these white folks can't rent. All these old empty buildings, and who want to live downtown anyway? All these old empty buildings. Now you're going to come into that tax incentive for them. All right, you got the right one. You know what made America great? Black labor, white wealth, slave labor. You all are taker. You all are robber. You all are thieves. The idea that Ms. Jessica said, that other young lady said, those old buildings are empty. Why would you give them a tax write-off? These old, big old empty buildings. So where are we going to get the money? Go to the ghetto and tax all people. Go to the ghetto and tax us. In God we trust. Thank y'all, ladies. Thank you. I've been doing this by myself. I couldn't move the needle. Oh, y'all, that's right, she said. You know what they didn't want us to do? To be able to read. They didn't want us to be able to think. That's why we have the miseducation of the black man. It's deliberately. They want the good schools, Walter Payton on their side of town. That's right. That's right. That's right. All right now. All right, thank y'all. I'm gonna say to the end. Y'all going to eat. That's all right.
All right. That's great. I'm better than, my property tax card, you know what happened when y'all did stuff last year?
Thank you, Ms. Blakemore. Mr. Miller? Th- Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
You know what?
Mr. Miller?
Again, for the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We are in support of the Class L designation for this building. We just saw it come into landmarks. We've waited 30 years, perhaps, if you will, for the Chicago Landmark designation and recognition of this building. And we are working all together towards this. And this is a beautiful, viable, and lovely building built above the Ogilvy train station, once the Northwestern station. And we believe that this is a great investment in our city. And just wanted to also mention that our preservation partner, our statewide partner, Landmarks Illinois, and Kendra Parson had to leave, but they are also in support of this Class L designation. Thank you.
Thank you. There's nobody else that signed up to comment on this. Is there any further discussion? Go ahead.
I just wanted to commend the staff for the extensive report on this building and specifically Blue Star as well for working with the staff and providing such detail in the drawings that highlight the significance of this building and the immense details that are very important to making it what it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. No other comments? I'd like to request a motion to approve the recommendation to City Council for the Class L property tax incentive for the Chicago Daily News Building. Commissioner Boatright.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Jackowitz. Commissioner Blakely. Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Rubin. I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a report from the Department of Planning and Development and final landmark recommendation for Byrne Hall, located at 2219 North Kenmore Avenue in the 43rd Ward. And Commissioner Boatright, go ahead.
At the March 5th meeting of the Landmarks Commission, I provided a report from DPD on Cordeloo Commons and Byrne Hall. That report stated that the designation of these two buildings on DePaul's campus supports the city's overall planning goals for the Lincoln Park community and the North Planning Region, and is consistent with the city's governing policies and plans. But I would like to state for the record that I recommend approval of the proposed designation of both buildings. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatright. Matt, I think you were going to give.
Thanks, Chairman. So having heard a positive report from Commissioner Boatright, I can report that DePaul has consented to the landmark designation of Byrne Hall and Cordeloo. So those are the two next agenda items. So now you can consider a final recommendation for both to City Council, starting with Byrne. It's in the 43rd Ward. Alderman Knudsen is in full support, as is the community. Just want to note that DePaul University's Byrne Hall is attached to the rectory of St. Vincent de Paul Parish, which is the building at right in the photo. The rectory is not included in the proposed designation. The university and parish have a shared history, but today they're very distinct, independent institutions. In your preliminary recommendation, not sure why it's doing that, you found that the building met 3 criteria, including heritage. So Byrne Hall, its history, and DePaul University's history is intertwined with St. Vincent de Paul Parish, which still exists, but is now, as I said, a separate institution. The image at left shows the parish's first building, a brick structure that served as church, school, and priest residence. It was built in 1875, where Byrne Hall now stands. In 1898, the parish established a college in this building known as St. Vincent College. That institution offered high school and college courses to young men, as you can see in this graduation photo. The college was successful, the enrollment increased, and they needed a new building, which they built in 1907, and that's today's Byrne Hall. In addition to the college, it also housed high schools for boys and girls. In 1907, St. Vincent College was rechartered as DePaul University, so Byrne Hall stands as the first building of DePaul University. In addition to heritage, you found that the building meets the architecture criterion. Here is the south elevation with a prominent gable framing a double height window. Pilasters and belt courses give the smooth facade some articulation. Here's the long west elevation on Kenmore. This is where the entrances to the building are, a detail of those projecting gabled entrances with some nice carved detail. In addition to architecture and history, you found that the building's architect was significant, and Eilish just touched on this individual, J.E.O. Pridmore. He came to Chicago from England, and here he maintained an architectural practice for nearly half a century. As Eilish had shown, this is an important work by him. Very fine building, a designated landmark. Pridmore was personally and professionally touched by the Iroquois Theater fire. His sister was one of 600 people who died in that fire. And so he used his position as an architect in Chicago to improve life safety codes, and his practice became a leader in fireproof construction. A lot of his practice was to design theaters, churches, and other large buildings to be fully fireproof. Indeed, Pridmore was brought on by DePaul to design Byrne Hall when the original architect of the building was fired for skirting building codes and bribing city officials. A good example of Pridmore's fireproof buildings is this in the Preston Bradley Center in the Uptown Square Landmark District. Pridmore's career aligned with the rise of American cinema, and like other architects of the time, he designed a number of motion picture theaters across the Midwest. This Art Nouveau example by him shows his range and rigor. He really worked his designs. With regards to integrity, Byrne is in great shape. It's been well maintained. Big changes would be the replacement of windows and doors, which is common for a building of this age. So we're not recommending any changes to the significant features which were identified last month. The exterior portions of the building that are owned by DePaul, generally the east and south elevations and their roof lines would be significant. There are portions of the building that are owned by the parish. These include the north elevation and a portion of the west elevation, which are kind of secondary, and those would not be included. In February, Richard Wiltz, DePaul's Vice President of Facility Operations, was here to speak in support of this designation and Cortelyou. He is unable to attend today. He had asked me to read a quite long statement, but I think what we'll do in the interest of time is I'll email this to you. But he wanted to convey his regret he couldn't attend today due to other commitments. But DePaul is fully in support of these two landmark designations. I'll email his statement to you. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this one.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions by the commission? Seeing none, public comments. Kendra Parson has indicated her support, but does not wish to speak. Ward, would you like to make a comment? And would you like to sign up for both Byrne and Cortelyou?
I'll make it quick. Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We're very much in support of this landmark designation. It would be wonderful to see more buildings of this campus designated as landmarks. The crown jewel is right to the east of this building. This is St. Vincent de Paul Church. That's really the cornerstone and heart of the community. I realize we need permission from the owners and maybe from the Archdiocese of Chicago, which is never easy to obtain, but realizing that they're also tearing down a half a block, shall we call it, just about a block away from here, along Sheffield and Belden. It would be really wonderful to get more buildings of the DePaul campus that are historic and so important to the neighborhood, a cornerstone of the neighborhood, designated as landmarks looking to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Just for the record, your comments are regarding Byrne as well as Cortelyou. Ward? I'm just confirming that your comments are in regard to both items 6 and 7.
They are.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Blakemore, would you mind if I ask you if you could address both 6 and 7 at the same time?
I'm not hearing you, sir. I am here because of this area used to be the lawns of Lincoln Park. There used to be black people in this area, and they moved, they moved them out, and they called themselves Puerto Ricans. Nobody want to be black. As black as I am, and I'm not black, I'm Puerto Ricans. Anyway, that area, they moved them out. So these lily white areas are getting all the benefits from this historical commission here. They're getting all kind of tax write-offs and everything they want, they get. So I'm sticking around. The two ladies said, come on, let's eat. They was tired of you. I can't get tired. I cannot get tired. I got to keep doing it till I can't do it anymore. So with these landmarks come benefits. These historical landmarks come money, tax write-off, and all kind of incentives. But when they get ready to convert those historical buildings, they get grant money. The bottom line is about the money. The money. The rich get richer at the expense of the poor. And I was so elated today. These ladies are just smart. Way smarter than Mr. Blakemore. And they black. So the way you can control a person is the miseducation of the black man and woman. These are educated black. All these, this is a scheme, this historical commission and landmark to get money for those historical buildings. But are you getting money for the black, the Regal? And you can't blame that on you white folks. They got black aldermen, black commissioner, got a black mayor, high places, setting us out. And I'm not beating up on Sierra. Before Sierra was Mr. Cox. It's just like a merry-go-round and bringing economic development to the south side and west side. It's not happening. But for whatever reason, it's not happening. But I'm still here advocating for the community. So I was very elated that these ladies came.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. For the record, both Lynetta Thomas as well as Jessica Jackson had signed up to speak. They are not here right now. Matt, are you doing number 7?
Yeah. Got it. So one more from DePaul, which of course they've consented.
Hang on.
Sorry.
I'm jumping the gun.
And it's been a long meeting.
Jumping the gun.
We should probably
Sorry about
vote.
that.
Works better when you vote.
Okay. Having no more public comments, I'd ask for, and no more discussion. The owner's already signed the consent form. We can go ahead. We've already heard all of this. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to City Council for Burn Hall. And, thank you. Woo. Commissioner Blakely, Commissioner Burns. She's not here. Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Rubin, and I'm a yes as well. Motion carries, hopefully unanimously. Okay, now we go to quarterly.
Great. So quarterly comments, another one at DePaul. Again, they've consented. You know, a reference was made to some buildings that DePaul is demolishing for a new athletic facility, 5 buildings. Of course, we looked at those buildings for landmark designation, either individually or as a district. We could not establish the legal criteria to do that. In exchange, DePaul has offered to us and the city and Lincoln Park these 2 fine landmark buildings that actually do meet criteria. So 43rd Ward, Alderman Knudsen is in support. Closer view of the building on Chalmers Street. Little group of buildings to the right is your McCormick Landmark District from 1977. You found that the building meets criterion 1 for heritage. It was built by the McCormick Theological Seminary, which had a long history in Lincoln Park, going back to 1859. This photo at the right shows the seminary in the 1890s. By the 20s, the seminary had outgrown its facilities in Lincoln Park. They thought about moving. They decided to stay. They hired architect Dwight Wallace to develop this plan, which was published in the Trib, which called for basically a new collegiate Gothic campus. Only 2 buildings were built from that plan. One is the Quarterly Commons, which is circled in green. This is a 1957 aerial that shows the 2 buildings completed from the 1920 plan, the Commons in the foreground of that green quad, and a gymnasium in the background of the green quad. Today, only the Commons survives. The cornerstone for the building was laid on October 29th, 1929, the start of the Great Depression, which really limited or basically stopped their 1920s transformation plan. Nevertheless, the Commons was completed in 1930, and it became an important center of the seminary's life. In the 1960s, the seminary had to close. They had to downsize. They left Lincoln Park and moved to Hyde Park, where it still exists. In 1976, DePaul picked up the seminary's properties, including the Commons. In addition to heritage, you found the building meets the architecture criterion. Obviously, it's a really, really nice collegiate Gothic design. Here's the elevation facing the quad. A very nice gable end within this nice winter landscape. Some amazing limestone ornament, as you can see from this oriel with its tracery. A very nice hand-carved work. Like I said, it's an example of collegiate Gothic architecture, which flourished in America in the late 19th century up to the Depression. It recalled these buildings, you know, from the great English medieval universities like this one at Oxford. The style for religious institutions like McCormick, it offered associations with tradition, academic rigor, and piety. The building has been excellently maintained by McCormick and DePaul. So to wrap up the significant features, we recommend no change from what you already considered. So all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions of the commission? Having none. Again, Lynetta Thomas had signed up to speak. Debbie Dodge had signed up to speak. Ward, are you good? Okay. Jessica Jackson had signed up to speak. No longer here. Mr. Blakemore, are you still here? Oh, okay. I asked him if he would make his comments at the last item. He said yes. Therefore, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation of City Council for you comments. Is there a motion? Okay. All right. Yeah, Blakely and, right? Yes, you moved? You moved?
Yeah.
You moved? Who seconded?
I second.
Okay. Who moved? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm like, what's going on here? Commissioner Blakely. Commissioner Burns is not here. Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Rubin. I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Permit Review Committee report.
Hey.
Let's go.
Chairman, Permit Review Committee reviewed 3 projects at its March 5th, 2026 meeting. All 3 projects were approved with conditions. The report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions was included in your packets. This report is for your information and for the record.
Thank you. Emily.
So for the month of March, staff approved 121 permit applications. A total of 141 reviews were performed by staff, and the average number of days to issue approval or corrections was 6.6 days.
Fantastic. With no other business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Is there?
So moved.
Commissioner Jekowitz, and second by Commissioner Burns. Oh, you're back. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And Commissioner Jekowitz, this is. Nobody's really good.
Permit Review Committee will begin in 3:38.